As you can see on my screen that I already have opened up PyCharm. Now, when I say about or talk about if statement, it is also kind of like a code or a function. So you have to keep that thing in mind. First off, what we're going to do is going to be using Boolean most of the time, okay? So your Boolean value is going to result or in result, it's going to represent that specific value which you want. So keep that thing in mind. So first off, I'm going to start off with is. Let's say I'm going to put in is. I'm going to put in this variable is female. So is female is going to be, let's say, true or false. So if I put in true over here, now I'm going to start off printing my commands or my functions. So here, I'm going to put my if function. If function is going to be over here, and it's going to be is male. So I'm going to put in is female over here. I'm going to put in a colon, and I'm going to start my function, which is going to print out that specific value. So I'm going to put in double quotation, you're a female. There we go. Now, if that statement is true, I want that thing to be like pasted. But if I put in another command, which is going to be else, so if it is not met up with the criteria or met up that specific requirement, it's going to print out another value. So for that, I'm going to put in else and nothing else inside over here, put in a colon. I'm going to put in a colon over here. I'm going to put in a bit of space, and I'm going to print, let's say, double quotation, you're not a female. Now, if I print this out, it is going to give me this line that you're a female. Okay, I'm going to like play it, and you'll basically see that it will take a bit of time and it will play you're a female. But it's going to take out the value of this Boolean data. So if I turn this data into false, you can see false. If I play it, and it's going to tell me that you're not a female. So it's going to depend on which Boolean value you are working on. So it's going to depend on that. And now I'm going to have two different variables and I'm going to work with it. Well, just like I said, it's going to be a bit more complex, like according to our class and as time goes. So if I put in, if this person is thin or fat, what I'm going to do is going to be is, I'm going to make another variable, thin equal, I'm going to type in false. Now, if I play this, now you'll basically see you're not a female, but we did not put any extra prints over here. You can see you're a female and you're not a female. So what we basically have to do is put in more, like, let's say variables over here. So here I'm going to do is going to be nothing over here. Just put in equal, like put in a space, type in or, and then I'm going to put in the variable, which is going to be is thin. So I'm going to put in is thin. Okay. Now you can see we have another variable applied. Now, if you want to type in what you want, then you can put it over here. Let's say you're a female or tall or both. Now it's going to be depending on what you put. So here I'm going to put in you're a female or thin or both. Now the same way I'm going to do is going to be you're not a female nor thin. There we go. Now as we have both of these requirements met, now if I just play it up, you can see you're not a female nor thin. But if I turn both of these values different, if I put in true, if I play it, it'll basically say you're a female or thin or both. Now, if I change this value into true, I play it, it will give me the same answer. Okay, so this is basically how you'll be able to work with multiple requirement data whenever you want to. Now you'll also be able to work with, let's say, numbers if you want to. Now I'm going to change out my value at the top. So I'm going to do is going to be adding in more. So here, instead of is thin, I'm going to put in, let's say, is underscore, and I'm going to put in is joyful. I'm going to put in equal. I'm going to put in true. Now here, I'm going to put in or. Now here, you're going to put in is joyful, are both, and joyful, and sad. Now, if I play this out, you'll basically see it will give me the answer. You're a female, or thin, or both, and joyful. But if I turn all of them false, but if I type in just false over here, it's going to tell me you're a female and joyful. But I'm here, I'm going to put in, let's say, false. False here. Also, I'm going to put in false. So every one of them meets up this criteria. So if I play it out, you'll basically see you're not a female nor thin and sad at the same time. So if you want to use another one, let's say I'm going to do is going to be putting in another command over here. So here you can see we have all of these values, but here what I can do is cut specific values off. So I'm going to cut this specific value off because I don't want like a lot of these things to like confuse you. So I'm going to cut this off. Is thin, that's it. And I'm going to cut this one off too so that you can understand it better. What I'm going to do is going to be cutting this off. There we go. Now here, what I'm going to do is going to be typing another command over here after this. So here, I'm going to do is going to be taking this off and start off with this one. And I'm going to put in ELIF. ELIF. I'm going to type in is female and not is thin. So now as I have it, and now I'm going to print out another value from here. Here I'm going to put in print. Now here I'm going to put in you are a fat. Let's say I'm going to put in double quotation first. You are a fat female. Now, if I just play this whole thing out, you'll basically see, there we go. We have these values over here, which does not meet up the criteria. But one thing you're going to do is going to be turn these into true. I'm going to put in true over here, all of them to true. And I'm going to customize my functions just a bit. There we go. And here I'm going to put in another space over here. You have to use 2 of those values, okay? So you have to keep that thing in mind. So first thing I'm going to do is going to be changing out both of these. We have ELIF over here, and we also have to change this ELIF over here. Now we have like 3 values, okay? So we're going to have like 3 values. So first off, it's going to start off with if. Now it's going to be is female, the first variable, and then I'm going to put in the second variable, which is thin. Now here I'm going to put in the print. So there we go. In the print, we have you are a female or thin. Let's say I'm going to put in you are a thin female, okay? Thin female. There we go. That is printed. And I'm going to put in ELIF again. Is female, the same value, and not is thin, okay? So you have to keep that thing in mind, is thin. And after that, you're going to put in the colon, which is going to help you out over here to actually print out this specific function. Now you can see we have this, you are a fat female. Now on the next one, I'm going to, instead of else, I'm going to also paste in another ELIF. Okay, so I'm going to put in another space. There we go. I'm going to put in another one. Let's say I'm going to put in ELIF again. ELIF. I'm going to cut this off. And I'm going to put in ELIF not. Okay, you have to put in ELIF not because obviously we have already ELIF. So I'm going to put in ELIF is male, close of the parentheses. I'm going to put in and is thin. There we go. After is thin, put in the colon, which is going to help you. And I'm going to put in the else. Okay, so there we go. We have else. You are a fat female. So first off, we have you are a thin female, which is the first one, which is working out with if function. Now on the next ELIF function, we also have the same one, but this is for the positive value, which is true. So if I have this is female and is thin, or let's say you can also put it and not. You can see this over here, and not is thin, which is the variable over here. Now on the print, you are a fat female. Okay. Now on the next one, we have ELIF not, and we have the same variable over here is female. I'm going to put in is female instead of male. There we go. Now we have the variable. And then we also have is thin as our variable. Okay. So I'm going to put in over here is going to be, let's say, you are a short or something like that. So I'm going to put in, let's say I'm going to put in double quotation. You are a fat female. You can also put in between, like, but. Okay, I'm going to put in you are not a female, but thin. Okay, but thin. Now, if I do the last one, which is going to be else, you, I'm going to do is going to be changing this value are either not female or not thin or both. So basically we have done our commands. Now if I like play it, you'll basically see you are a thin female. So you can see all of these values meet up to this specific value or to this specific function that you are a thin female. So there we go. It is the true value. You are a thin female. Now if I just turn this false, you'll basically see it will give me another value. So if I play it, you can see you are a thin female. You can see you're still a thin female. So if I turn this into false, and if I play this value, you can still see we have the same thing going over and over again. So you basically have to turn all of these values into false to meet up to that specific criteria. So I'm going to cut this one off. Is joyful is not needed. I'm just going to play it. And there you can see we have all of the values which are giving me the same answer. So first off, start up with if, then put in an or in between, or you can also put in an and, which is also going to help you. So I'm going to put in and. If I just play it, you can see you are a fat female. Now this is changing of the values. So if I put in false over here, if I play it, you can see you are either not female or not thin or both. So it's going to be the else value which is being printed up. It's kind of like the if statement or the if function in Excel, but instead of finding out values, what it searches for is what meets up the criteria or what meets up the requirement of that specific statement. Okay, so it's going to depend on what you put inside of these ELIF and if functions. Okay, so you can see after these functions, we have put in a specific criteria data. All of them has them. Okay, so now you know how you'll be able to understand and also work with the if statements in Python. And it also can be turned into various different options, such as you can start off if as a statement or a syntax. Then you can also start off with the different output. Then you have to keep one thing in mind is that it's going to work with if, elif, and also else. You can also make or work on with nested if statements, but those are going to be very advanced, which I'm going to keep that aside because this is a beginner level class. Then you can also apply ternary operator like conditional expressions. Then you can also do logical operations in conditions beside these alphabetical values. You can use if and so on. So basically the if statement is a fundamental part of control flow in Python, allowing for decision making in programs based on different conditions. Okay. So hope you understood about everything in this class. And if you still have any confusion or any question about any part of this lesson, feel free to ask me anytime. I'm always there to help you out. So without any further ado, let's move on to our next class of Python.